All right. In booklet one, we will have just had one switch to one light from one power feed. And that's fine, except that's not real world yet. A lot of times in your house, you're going to be switching multiple different lights from different switches, and you can't run a separate feed to the breaker every single time. First of all, the breakers are expensive, and that's a lot of wire to fill up a panel, and that's going to cost you a lot of money. So we're going to introduce to you multi-switching, meaning we're going to switch from multiple different switches to multiple different lights. For example, you have your living room lights, your hallway lights, and your bedroom lights. All of them should be switched separately. They all should have one power circuit, especially with LEDs today. You're going to have to be switching a lot of lights from one power circuit. So this is where we have what we've done before. Our power feed on the bottom coming from this 2-wire. Our cable, our 2-wire cable that's feeding the light that has our switch power and obviously both neutrals. So first, before we get into installing this, let's go to the whiteboard. All right, so we're going to get on the whiteboard here and we're going to discuss and draw out our multi-switching. So just to review here a little bit, let's say this is my bedroom number one, right? I've got a switch and a light. And I don't want to run a wire back to the breaker for my second bedroom, considering that they're probably within 6 feet, these two switches. So I'm going to add this second switch and light onto this circuit without going all the way back to the circuit breaker. And we're going to follow the cable plan here. So as you can see, we're going to come from the switch to the second switch and then feed the light. We're going to follow the same 3 rules that we always have, and that's draw your neutrals first, then draw your constant power, then finally your switched power. So as you can see, what we've done here is we've got our neutral off of the neutral bar. It comes to the switch, and because the switch doesn't use power, we don't have to connect it to any screws on the switch. We just put a nice little moret on there. It continues through the next cable and is terminated on the white or silver screw on the light. So that's step one on neutrals. Step 2 on constant power, which comes directly from your breaker, it's going to come all the way to the first switch, and it's going to terminate on the common screw or the bottom screw on your switch. Everything after that is switch power. Because this knife switch can control the power flow here, this no longer is constant power. It can be switched off, which is what we want. We want to be able to turn that light on and off. So the final one, which is switched power, is this final cable right here that feeds the light from the top screw on the switch. So that's what we've been able to do up till now, and now we're going to add the multi-switching. So in order to add this switch, we're going to have to run a cable. And in this case, it's going to be a 2-wire cable because we need to bring neutral and we need to bring constant power. So let's hook it up and see what happens. So again, step number 1, we're going to do neutrals first. So we're going to add a neutral to this moret, and it's going to come all the way down to the switch. Here we go. It goes all the way down to the switch. Now, in a switch, again, we don't use power. We only control it, so we don't have to hook up the neutral to any of these screws. Again, it's just a moret, and continue on through. Then we continue on to the light, and in the light we go to the white or the silver screw. That's it for the neutrals. Neutrals are usually that simple. The second step is where things get a little more complex. The second step is where we have to introduce a new technique and a new skill for you guys. So it's going to be called kind of something funny. It's called a pigtail. So a pigtail is introduced when you have too many wires to go to a screw, but you still have to connect that screw. So in a switch, we can't have 2 wires underneath one screw. So if I have this that's feeding the switch down below, that's not allowed. So what we have to do is introduce a pigtail. And all a pigtail is it's about an 8-inch piece of wire. You strip one end, the one end will go to the bottom screw, the other end will go to the moret that we're going to draw on right now. So instead of going to the bottom screw, these 2 wires are going to go into a moret. Now this constant power is going to go all the way into the switch. And because we don't need constant power anywhere else in this project, we can go directly to the switch. We don't need to do a Moret in this box. So we go there. Coming back to this, we still have to power up this bottom screw. And this is what's called a pigtail. And it comes from the Moret and it goes to that bottom screw. That's it. Why it's called a pigtail, not sure. You can Google that one. But for constant power, that's it. Everything else is switched power. So the only thing we have left to do is come from the top screw to this light, and that is just a single wire that goes to the gold screw, represented by black because it's a whiteboard and I don't have a gold marker. So that's all it is. It's very similar circuits. For this top half, you have a power feed and you have a switched feed. Same thing in the bottom, you have a power feed and a switched feed. But now, instead of going to a breaker, we're going to another switch, stealing power and bringing it down. All right, so now you can try drawing 2A and 2B in your wiring booklets. After you've attempted that, we're going to go through on the board in class. And once we get that down pat, we're going to go in the shop and wire this.